There comes a stage in your life when you stop playing the character people wrote for you. The constant need to soften your words so they don't sting, the endless availability that leaves you exhausted, the way you sand down your own edges so no one else feels uncomfortable in your presence. And then one day, without any grand announcement, you simply decide you're done. And when you do, everything feels different. You're not harsh, you're honest. You're not cold, you're steady. You've simply ended your unpaid career as a people pleaser, and the world doesn't quite know what to do with that. Because suddenly, those who once expected instant replies, constant presence, and unlimited emotional access find themselves confused. They can't figure out what changed. They're used to calling and you answering, texting and you responding, leaning and you holding. But here's the twist. You didn't block them. You didn't start arguments. You didn't declare war. You just became unavailable. And that quiet shift communicates more than any long explanation ever could. You're not a yes on demand anymore. You're not reviving relationships that died every time you needed something in return. You're not pouring life into hands that couldn't hold it. Detachment, it turns out, isn't cruelty, it's clarity. It's not a tactic to play hard to get. It's a new way of existing, one where you stop chasing comfort in places that only left you empty. You're not rejecting connection, you're rejecting imbalance. And here's where the real transformation begins. There's a unique power in not reacting. Not because you're trying to look mysterious or unreadable, but because you're no longer trapped inside the older version of you, the one who constantly explained, defended, negotiated. The silence that once tortured you now feels like relief. The absence that used to make you spiral now feels like protection. Their withdrawal used to spark anxiety, now it gives you space to breathe. When you no longer rush to clarify or prove, people start showing you who they are without your help. Some slip away quietly. Let them. That was their ending. Others start pressing harder, not from love, but because they're panicked at losing the convenience of your attention. Because access is addictive, and when you stop giving it out like it costs nothing, people suddenly treat it like treasure. Not because they've changed, but because you have. And that's when you begin to feel it, not in a loud way, not in some grand display, but in the subtle rhythm of your days. You breathe deeper, you sleep without guilt, you laugh at things that used to steal your peace. You stop answering messages written in entitlement. You no longer show up just to keep a false peace alive. You're not the sponge soaking up everyone else's mess anymore. You're not bitter, you're just unavailable to disrespect. That's not cruelty, that's maturity. And the funny thing, people notice. They don't understand it, but they feel it. The same ones who once overlooked you now study you like they missed a memo. But the truth is simple. They never deserved to understand the shift. Eventually, you stop needing everything to make sense. You stop begging for closure from people who couldn't give honesty. You stop waiting for apologies that will never arrive. You stop needing to be seen because you've finally seen yourself. And that's the one thing they never prepared for, that you'd stop chasing recognition and give it to yourself instead. You're not ghosting people, you're outgrowing patterns. You're not distant, you're simply rooted in a new standard. And yes, people will talk. They'll say you've changed, that you don't reply like before, don't show up like you used to. And they're right, you don't. Because you're no longer living as if you're the on-call assistant for everyone else's crises while neglecting your own. You don't need a broadcast, you don't need to unfollow, block, or write an essay. You just begin to choose yourself in ways that don't require an announcement. You say no and let it stand. You rest and don't apologize. You enjoy moments without needing witnesses. Your presence becomes valuable, not because you're playing exclusive, but because you finally understand its worth. And in that stillness, you start to taste something different. Solitude feels full instead of empty. Peace feels louder than applause. Silence becomes clarity instead of punishment. That's the hidden gift of becoming hard to reach. You're not isolating, you're preserving. You're not rejecting love, you're filtering. You're not cold, you're finally warm towards yourself. Because the truth is this, when you stop being easy to reach, you stop being easy to drain. You stop betraying yourself in tiny, invisible ways just to keep other people comfortable. You stop ignoring the signals your body has been giving you for years. The tightness in your chest when you said yes but wanted to scream no, the tension in your shoulders when that name appeared on your screen, the exhaustion after spending time with people who never poured back into you. Becoming less accessible teaches you the price of peace. It shows you how much energy you used to give away for free. And at some point, the math just doesn't add up anymore. You realize you can't keep spending yourself to keep others whole. You can't keep losing sleep to fix what others refuse to even notice. You can't keep paying with your sanity for connections that wouldn't survive without your overgiving. So you grow quieter. You respond slower. You stop rushing to prove anything. You're not offended when you're misunderstood, because you're no longer living for their interpretation. You're not a mirror reflecting their expectations. You're a window into your own clarity. And that alignment, that's what makes you magnetic. Not because you're louder, flashier, or harder to read, but because in a world that thrives on noise, you've become calm. In a culture addicted to distraction, you've become centered. You're unreachable, not because you're hiding, but because you finally stopped standing in places that suffocated your soul. And people feel it, even when you don't say a word. They notice the difference in your tone, the stillness in your presence, the way you no longer chase conversations that drain you. They notice the absence of the old version of you, the one who bent endlessly just to keep temporary peace alive. But here's the secret. You're not cold. You're simply refusing to explain warmth to people who only showed up when they felt cold themselves. This version of you doesn't build walls, it builds windows. You're still open, but only through intention, respect, and reciprocity. The back doors of guilt, obligation, and fear have been sealed shut. And once you taste this kind of peace, you can't go back. Chaos feels toxic. Half-love feels insulting. One-sided conversations feel unbearable. You're not unattainable because you're distant. You're unattainable because you stopped putting your soul on clearance for people who only knew how to skim the surface. From this place, you begin to measure differently. Relationships aren't judged by years or history, but how you feel after sharing space. Lighter or heavier, nourished or drained. Your body tells you the truth long before your mind can justify it. And you stop betraying yourself to keep anyone else comfortable. Because every time you abandon yourself to hold on to others, you create wars inside your own skin. And you're simply done with that. So you don't fight for approval anymore. You don't panic when someone pulls away. You don't beg to be understood. You give your time meaning, your words weight, your energy boundaries. You stop managing other people's feelings like it's your full-time job. You let their discomfort be theirs. You let their silence be information. And in doing so, you finally find the peace you thought you had to earn from others. The real change isn't in how others treat you, it's in what you allow. And when your tolerance shifts, your entire life restructures. The shallow falls away. The noise fades. And what's left is room. Room for the relationships that carry weight, for mornings that feel light, for the version of yourself that no longer survives, but lives. This isn't about being unavailable to love, life, or connection. It's about being unavailable to chaos, inconsistency, and the constant need to prove you're enough. You've always been enough. You just stopped acting like you weren't. And maybe for the first time, you feel it. You're not performing worth anymore. You're protecting it. You're not selling yourself for scraps. You're holding yourself with reverence. And once you step into that, you can't unlearn it.